In today's video, we'll be discussing 10 things to consider when visiting a Muslim country. Traveling the world can be such an amazing experience. The number one thing it teaches us is an appreciation and tolerance for the diverse world in which we live. There are, of course, a few rules to follow when traveling to ease your way into countries that may have vastly different cultures than you might be used to at home. Welcome back to FTD Facts. I'm Sarah Carvalho, and today we're going to be discussing 10 things to consider when visiting a Muslim country. All right, the first thing to consider, coming in at number 10 today, one is not all. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, it is important to keep in mind that no two Muslim countries are the same. What's acceptable in Egypt is not necessarily acceptable in Iran. The rules that apply in Saudi Arabia are going to be vastly different from those in the United Arab Emirates. Before visiting a new country, it's always important to do your research and understand the culture, the law, and the social dynamics and expectations of the country. I would also advise that since all Muslim countries vary, you must never treat Islamic countries as all being the same. There's plenty of variety, and it pays to brush up on individual countries' customs before visiting. All right, the next consideration, maybe this is a good thing. Be prepared to eat and drink a lot. One common theme that definitely seems to run through many Muslim countries is that the people there love to eat. They express hospitality through food. They express their history and their culture through food. They express their love of life through food. So if you go to a Muslim country, you can be sure that you will be invited to eat with people, and you will be expected to eat a lot and enjoy your time. In most cases, there will always be someone coming around offering you something to eat or something to drink. Now, in terms of drinking, always, and I mean always, do your research. In some Muslim countries like Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, drinking alcohol is a hard no and is illegal. However, in other countries such as Egypt, the UAE, and Bahrain, drinking is a little bit more acceptable. Some countries only allow alcohol to be sold and consumed in tourist hotels, while others have liquor stores, bars, clubs, and pubs. In these more open countries, it is still extremely bad form to get visibly drunk and obnoxious in public. So, while it's okay to enjoy a drink or two as long as it's not against the law, be sure to go easy on your top up. Coming in at number 8, it's important to consider that you should expect attention. This is true for men, but especially true for women. As an obvious outsider, and certainly if you are a Westerner, you are probably going to attract attention in Muslim countries. Sometimes that attention will be good, where everyone just wants to welcome you. Sometimes in more strict countries, it will feel strange to observe the stares and hear the comments said to you or about you. Having traveled to several Muslim countries, the stares can sometimes be uncomfortable because we are not used to it. But the best thing you can do in that situation is just try to ignore it. You are in another country and you stand out as being different, so it's natural for people to want to stare out of curiosity. Now, this is also where having a friend or a family member traveling with you can be helpful. All right, another very important thing to consider is the importance of visiting mosques only at the appropriate time. Just the same as you wouldn't wander into a European church during Mass, it's bad form to try to enter a mosque during prayer time. Fridays are particularly busy, though any time that you hear the call to prayer from the minaret of a mosque, there are likely to be people inside praying. It's also worth noting that there are usually separate entrances within the mosque reserved for men and women, and both women and men are expected to dress modestly. In many cases, you will be asked to cover up before entering. Many mosques also offer proper coverings for tourists. When I visited the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque in the United Arab Emirates, I had to borrow borrow an abaya and hijab to go into the mosque, and no shoes were allowed inside either. All right, and coming in at number 6, yes, you are going to get invitations, and those invitations are genuine. It can take some time getting used to, given all of the dodgy invitations you might receive from random strangers while traveling, but in many Muslim countries, most of the invitations you get to drink tea, to take a tour of a city with the people, to join them in their family home for dinner, most of them are absolutely genuine. There's a centuries-old tradition of hospitality that is taken very seriously in the Middle East. When I was teaching in Kuwait, there were a few occasions where I was invited by many students' families to enjoy a traditional meal with them. It was an absolutely spectacular experience. All right, and coming in at the halfway point, we have the consideration of not approaching people of the opposite gender. Now, this isn't true for every country, but generally, the more traditional the society, the stricter the rules that govern social interactions there. Men are expected to only approach and converse with other men. Women are expected to do the same with their own gender. It's only after the ice has been broken and people have been introduced that you can start chatting to strangers of the opposite sex. In many cases, it is also uncommon for men and women to shake hands or hug in public unless they are directly related. It should not be taken offensively if a visiting woman reaches out to shake a local man's hand and he does not accept the offer. This is simply a sign of respect for you as a woman, as well as a respect for perhaps his own wife and children. There's not enough times that I could say this, but traveling alone in a Muslim country is fine. Traveling with a friend, though, is a little bit easier. Now again, this particularly applies to women. In almost every Islamic country, it is fine to travel by yourself. It is legal and it is acceptable. The unfortunate truth, however, is that you will find that the hassle level drops if you travel with a partner or friend. There are fewer questions, less interest, and less attention. Again, this is all because as visitors, we stand out. It's not ideal, but it's a reality to consider, especially if you plan to go out in the evenings during your travels. All right, the next thing to note is it's really important to dress to the same standards as the locals. People tend to be overly worried about their standards of dress when they visit Islamic countries. Well, the golden rule is simply to cover up as much as the locals do. Men, if you see everyone in trousers and long-sleeved shirts, then wear trousers and long-sleeved shirts. Women, if you see everyone wearing loose-fitting clothing or headscarves, then do the same. You will find that a certain amount of leeway is given to foreigners who aren't expected to know the exact local customs. Living in Kuwait for 5 years, I always made an effort to dress modestly out of respect for the culture and faith, but I was not required to cover my head or wear an abaya. All right, up next, just avoid politics. Just don't go there. Unless you know the people you're talking to and their political persuasion extremely well, then it's probably best to avoid political discussions when you're traveling through any country, but through the Islamic world especially. I mean, let's be honest, this statement could really be applied to any culture and country around the world. Politics is even a sensitive topic amongst friends sometimes. So, when traveling, it is always recommended to stay away from the topic of politics. Talk about the positive aspects of the culture, the food, and the sights. Talk about the weather. Just stay away from politics. And coming in at number 1, the most important, just obey the law and you'll be fine. This is the main thing to bear in mind and the most important thing to consider. If you obey the local laws and pay attention to local customs, you'll find traveling in the Islamic world safe, welcoming, and enjoyable. For example, in America, it is acceptable to film the police when they pull you over. But in some Muslim countries, this is seen as a grave offense. So make sure you are in the know before you go. Either way, in most cases, you will find that people are kind and generous. The sights are beautiful and untouched, and the wonderful memories will last a lifetime. All right, friends, this brings us to the end of our video on 10 things to consider when visiting a Muslim country. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did. For me, it's always great learning about and exploring new countries, cultures, and religions, especially when it involves traveling. So join in the conversation below in the comments and let me know which of today's facts was the most interesting or surprising thing to you. Are there any considerations that I may have forgotten to mention? And if you enjoyed this video, I've linked some similar videos down below in the description section for you that I know you're sure to love. So hurry up and click on those links. Also, feel free to check me out on social media where I get up to tons of different things other than filming videos, especially for you. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell to stay updated on all future posts. We'll see you next time. Bye.